Hey everyone, Greg here. As you may know by now, I'm the co-founder and CEO of TripShock, an online reseller for water sports and tours. For the past 12 years, we've had the pleasure of working with hundreds of operators across the country, and we're looking to grow our community. It's free to sign up, and you only pay when we bring you confirmed bookings. We'll help you reach new customers, fill empty seats, and grow your business like so many have done with us over the years. Head over to partners.tripshock.com to learn more about our program, read testimonials, or speak directly with our supply team. As always, thank you for listening and enjoy the show. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Awkward Watersport Guys podcast. On today's show, we're going to be talking with Nic Algretto, for Walton Beach, Florida council person. And we are going to be kind of diving into the world of, politics and business a little bit, but it has actually turned out to be a more entertaining episode than I first thought.
He was awesome, dude. He was like that. He was like that at our the meetings though too, man. When he first, I thought I was going to get a different Nic Algretto. When we talked and he came to, I talked on the show, he came out to our business and we talked about water sports and the coalition and all sorts of stuff like this. But I thought I was going to get the more polished version of Nic up at city council. He was going to be more political, and he wasn't. He was fucking exactly like he was in the parking lot, exactly like he was in the fucking show. Either that is the most polished act of all fucking time, or that is 100% that's what you get. What you see is what you get. And there's no two ways about it. That the guy is fucking completely genuine. And it was an awesome, and I think he's an entrepreneur too, and we get into that in the show a little bit. But you introed him as just city councilman, but he's a business guy too, and I love business guys in leadership positions. So he was entrepreneur first, council person second. So that's the cool part. But he knows what it's like running a small business, and his business isn't so much different than what we do. He fixes motorcycles, lawnmowers, power washers, they repair and sell, and then he sells and rents mobility scooters and things. So, his business is very similar to ours in a lot of ways. And so I think that's why there's such a good connection between him and what we do. But the episode goes a little, goes in deeper. It kind of answers the question of what we can do as business people, as water sport tour operators, to understand our local government. If there's an issue, how do we approach it? And there's a lot of fun stories, that he tells us that are pretty interesting. But you can kind of actually hear someone that sits in this seat actually get more of their real personality, rather than just going to these meetings. You see these people and they talk about issues, but actually get to hear them as a person, hearing their personalities and what they feel it kind of off the cuff. Yeah. I oftentimes always wonder, what's the motive behind somebody getting into politics. And talking with Nic, I feel I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. I'm lost for words, but I feel like a kinship. I get it. You know what I mean? I don't feel like this guy's my bloodlust for power knows no end. I must get into local politics. His story is pretty legit. How he gets into it, because it's always been when I see a lot of times. Again, I have no time. I hate politics. When people want to talk about politics with me, I don't it. It's too much for me. I understand it. I've campaigned for people before. I inherently like politics. I don't like being involved in politics, but it's always it's always intrigued me why someone would get into politics. It seems A, a very thankless job. B, it's almost I feel it's somebody that got bullied or some shit. They want have a thirst for power. You know what I mean? Because there's not a ton of money in it. And then in order for you to make a ton of money in politics, you have to play at the highest levels and then come under a ton of scrutiny about your business dealings. And if they are not corrupt, or you hear about these politicians with hundreds of thousands of dollars. So to hear from his standpoint how he was just kind of laissez-faire about the whole thing, and his business is kind of in politics, both very obviously the community is important to him and running his business and stuff like that. That really resonates with me, rather than somebody in a fucking suit that's it's paying lip service. And we've unfortunately encountered that in a lot of our dealings with some of our local officials here. And sometimes they weren't even paying lip service. They were just like, yeah, fuck you. I'm worried about the 8 people who voted in the last election and their constituency. So yeah, it soured the whole I was almost completely soured on politics until we had a little bit, like finally it was like a little check mark in our box for water sports in the city of Fort Walton. So anyway, we're gonna get into all that shit and fucking all the fun stuff that happened with our dealings in politics and Nick's story, which is great. And well, I guess without further ado, let's get into it, ladies and gentlemen. What do you call himself? Skilled lover, Nic Algretto.
All right, let's get awkward.
Yeah, too late.
Hey everyone, we're back here with Nic Algretto, Fort Walton Beach City Councilman, entrepreneur, and skilled lover.
Skilled lover. Skilled lover. I'm glad you included that. Glad you got the resume I sent over.
Yeah, Nick, thanks for being on the show. We're really happy to have you.
I appreciate y'all having me.
Our show today is about how to be a steward of your community, how to approach your local leaders. Obviously, as business people, not everything goes perfectly when you're opening your business and operating a business. There's regulations, there are ordinances. Sometimes you have to fight a little bit. And I think having a great relationship with local government and your local leaders can help, make for a better compromise. So before we start talking about that, I'd love to hear your story, how you got into entrepreneurship and then also got into politics.
I have lived on the Emerald Coast since about 2001. My dad moved down here after my parents split up when I was a little kid. So I used to come down here every summer, spend the 2 months down here with my dad, loved the area, etc. So when I was about 20 and just kind of meandering my way through failing classes in college, my dad was like, hey, you know what? Why don't you come down here? I'll give you a job as a road tech with the radio stations. So you can go to the broadcasts and lug the speakers around and pour sodas for people and generally be harassed, etc. So did that and worked in radio for about 15 years. My uncle had moved down maybe about 11 years ago, and my dad's brother, and said, hey, you know what we should do? Open a small business. All right, well, cool. What are we going to do? You know what? We're both really into motorcycles at the time. Let's like build custom choppers, because there's not thousands of people doing that. And you got to remember, this is the time of like Jesse James and the West Coast choppers and all that. It's real big at this point. So we're like, yeah, we're going to do something like that. We'll fix people's bikes, etc. So what are we going to call it? Man, I saw that there's this guy that builds bikes. His name is Scooter Brothers. We should call ourselves Scooter Brothers. Cool. We'll do it. So we open up a little small business. We each throw in $1,000, which is nothing and definitely not enough to start a small business. But it can be. I shouldn't say that. So anyway, we start doing that. People start bringing us. First thing we ever got was like 1975 Vespa. How do we fix this? We figured it out. Somebody brought us a lawnmower. Well, we weren't really planning to do that, but okay, we'll fix that. I think we maybe over the 11 years fixed 5 or 6 motorcycles, and now we sell commercial lawn equipment, mobility scooters. We rent mobility scooters. We fix all sorts of small engine equipment, pressure washers. Greg, we fixed yours.
You fixed mine 3 times.
3 times. So there you go.
Oh, you guys couldn't get fucking right the first time?
Yeah, apparently. so I guess the point of that
Better Business Bureau.
That long story is just to say that you might start out with one plan and then all of a sudden it turns into something.
All right, so you have this business, and what got you into politics?
Oh man, so
Rob Ford.
I'll tell the story. Yeah, I was watching Rob Ford, and I was so inspired to be the next Rob Ford.
That's what we call you, Nic Algretto, the Rob Ford of Fort Walton.
The Rob Ford of Fort Walton Beach. I didn't know at the time that Rob Ford had a brother, so I thought, I'll be the next Rob Ford. There was already a next Rob Ford, and that sucks. But no, honestly, I was approached by one of the people that's pretty influential in the community. Came to my office and he said, hey man, why don't you consider growing up a little bit? I was like, what? Why are you so insulting? And he just kind of laid it all out. It's like, look, there's not a lot of people that live in this city that would be eligible for this position of city council that could actually do this and make an impactful change. And the more I thought about it, my grandma and grandpa were on the city council when I was a kid. I remember walking in a parade when my grandpa was running for mayor of Union, Ohio, which he lost with the last name Fudge. You would have thought that would have been memorable enough to win. Fudge like the candy, he always used to tell you. And so I thought, you know what, why not give it a go? And so the first time I ran for city council, we had a different election system. There were seats, assigned seats. So you got 7 seats, and you would have to put your name in to say, I'm Nic Algretto. I want to run for seat 2 out of the 7. And it was just whichever ones were up for election. Well, the one I ran for, 6 people ran for the same seat, and I finished second. And it made me feel like, oh man, I was so close. I put all that effort into it. Now maybe I kind of know what I'm doing. I'll give it another go. And I did. And since then, I've spent 5 years getting bitched at a lot about people speeding down roads and potholes on streets and things of that nature. But, every time you do get to make an impact on somebody and actually get something resolved, you kind of feel like, all right, well, that's kind of why it's worth it.
Hey, everyone, we're going to take a quick break and talk about our sponsors for the month, AMP Agency. AMP is a full-service digital marketing agency that specializes in tour, rental, and destination marketing.
We would not have sponsors on the show if we could not vouch for them ourselves. AMP Agency does a bunch of stuff for Destiny Water Adventures personally. I 100% vouch for this guy. I've handed them over to other companies in the past before they officially became a sponsor, and they have had nothing but great things to say. If you guys are doing your own marketing and doing a piss poor job of it, do yourselves a favor. Hand yourselves over to AMP Agency, specifically Steve Edwards, their CEO, will call you personally and have a great conversation with you about what you guys need to do for your marketing.
Listen, guys, they do pretty much everything in digital marketing: website development, maintenance, Google AdWords, PPC, graphic design, social media management, SEO, and a myriad of other things. When you choose a marketing company, it's so important to choose a company that knows your industry. And AMP Agency knows activity marketing, especially water sports and tours. They got a promo going for Awkward Watersport Guy listeners for their managed websites. Use promo code Awkward Podcast when you go to amp.agency. Again, that's amp.agency, promo code Awkward Podcast. You get 3 months free and get started with AMP Agency. All right, guys, let's get back to the show.
Yeah, man. First of all, like I want to say, like, hey, man, like I'm one of those guys that like you made an impact on, So I'd never been to a council meeting in my life, and it's like going to those things. They're literally, what's that show? Parks and Recreation. Have you ever seen? Yeah. It's literally like that. It's like fucking crazy people getting up, like fucking screaming about shit that nobody has any control over, and it's insane, but. Yeah, man. So before the show, we got a quick, hey, thank you, blah, blah, blah. But I'm definitely one of those businesses and those people in my family that were, man, heavily, impacted in a positive way, due to like you being like a one-on-one kind of dude, man. And I just, before we started the show, I just want to I want to go on record since we're talking politicky. Of saying thank you, man. Thank you for working with our community, not just our community from a business standpoint, but our community at large. Because this is like it does like what we do, who we are. Any business impacts your community. So yeah, I just want to go on record and saying thank. And also the guy he's talking about is the president of Fort Walton Beach, right? Ted Corcoran. Mm. And we're going to shout out him too, man, because that guy's awesome.
Love Ted, man.
Yeah, he is, man. He's a force to be reckoned with. None of you guys know who this guy is, but if you ever come to town or whatever, go meet the wacky Ted Corcoran, man. He's awesome. He's an awesome guy. I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt you, but I just want to do my thank yous on air and tell you that, that my family is one of those families that were impacted in a positive way, man, because of the stuff that you did. So thank you for that.
All right, look, I appreciate you saying that. And, honestly, anytime that you can see the results of doing something like that, then like, why else would you do this? It's definitely not for like, I have just so much free time And, I love to spend it,
With
by
bags of jewels dropped off at your office.
Yeah, exactly. It's,
all the money.
it's times like that when it's actually worth it. There's definitely times when it's not worth it as well, but, that was a good time.
So I have a question, man. Like, so politicians obviously get a bad rep. If you're politicians, like lawyers. No, that's great. Like politicians, man. Like, what would you say is like, what makes a good politician besides like just being somebody who cares? You know what I mean? Because you can still be somebody who cares and not come across that way at all. Or, like to one side, you're going to be someone who cares, to to the other side, you might be an evil SOB, depending on where your party lies. But I mean, what do you think is a quality that makes you, Nic Algretto, a good steward of our community?
I think the most important thing, and it'd be so much harder for someone else to answer this that has to be a partisan politician. I think the real thing is not being partisan. Like a city councilman, at least in our city, and I think it's this way most places, well, not bigger cities, but having that R or that D next to your name and having to just spout out whatever gibberish comes from whatever party, and this is the way that we're going to do it, and this is how you're supposed to feel and think because you're one party or the other, makes it a real challenge, in my opinion, to actually accomplish anything. Because if you're just constantly fighting against the other side and anything they say is no good and everything you say is great and they feel the same way about you, how are you ever going to accomplish anything? So in our small city, our small town, it's a lot easier to, actually have an opinion that might be different from somebody, even though you might both be Republicans or you might both be Democrats, but you might have completely different views on this one subject, whether it's spending or whether it's policing or whatever. And it's a lot easier to come together and find common ground because of that. So I think a good politician is somebody who actually thinks and feels not only what their past is and how they've come up, but then obviously also has the time and resources to spend talking to local people, working on local things, and not just spouting off jibber jabber from whatever talking points they've gotten.
One thing I want to say is when I've been to so many council and commissioner meetings the past year and a half, I feel like some council, they are afraid to make an unpopular decision. And I can see it in their face. I know where they want to go with this, but they're afraid. And it seems to me that you have to have a hell of a lot of courage to be in that position on that seat, because if it's a close vote and that you're the last person to vote and you make that's actually in some of these cases, you don't like Destin, they do everything electronically and you're not the last person to vote. But being in the situation where you're the deciding factor, and you decide one their way, and now you're disappointed a whole group of people, that is there has to be a lot of pressure. And I remember when I went to one of the Fort Walton Beach City Council meetings, and one of the even though it was pretty much a unanimous decision, almost, one of them kind of, would just had a really hard time making his mind up. And it seems like you have to have a lot of courage. And that's just something I just noted. How do you feel about, that? Would you think that's about right?
Yeah, I'd say that's pretty accurate, man. I mean, there's certainly been times when I have felt strongly one way, and then, you got to also remember that you're not voting for you. You're voting for in Fort Walton Beach, there's 23,000 residents. There's obviously more than that with business owners, visitors, et cetera. And those decisions impact, maybe not every single person on every single vote, but you're voting for those people. So, whether I might feel like this is the right thing for me, it might not be the right thing for everybody else. But there's been plenty of times when I have made unpopular decisions and certainly felt the blowback from that. I'll give you one short specific example. We had a vacant parcel of land in the city on Lake Drive. And so it's been used as just kind of a park, and it is technically classified as a park. Although it's really was just a lot of trees, and, people would walk their dogs over there. There was also bums who would inhabit the park, and, drugs and alcohol, etc. The police and the fire department were constantly dealing with that. So our city went through this thing to clear off some property that wasn't being used. Well, this parcel was listed on those things. So we went through, hey, do we want to declare this as a surplus property and let somebody buy it? So we did. We declare a surplus property. Well, everyone had an opportunity to find out, but as you know, the interest in the day-to-day operations of small city government is not usually a big interest. It's not followed closely. Well, so the residents that live around this quote-unquote park find out that we are going to sell it. So, of course, the newspaper runs a headline, "City to sell park, residents pissed." So all these people show up. "You're going to sell our damn park." I mean, they're calling us every name. There, you're in the shady back room with the cigars. Envelope full of cash. You sons of bitches. I swear to God, I'll be at your door with a pitchfork. We're going to sell the park by your house, you son of a bitch. All of it, It's like, bro, this isn't a park. I mean, like, I understand that you want the stuff to be the way it is. And within, I mean, some of these people's houses were closer than an eighth of a mile to an actual park. It's an actual park, right? Like, I could throw a baseball from some of their houses into the park. And for whatever reason, they just would never see that. But, what ultimately came of it is a developer bought it, going to build 3 or 4 new beautiful houses on the lot. The house values will be, increased dramatically from the older homes that surround them, which will ultimately increase their square foot value and blah, blah, blah. But, I can understand, and I did feel bad for those people that wanted this to stay the way it is. But again, we're making the decisions for all of the people that live in the city, not just the, 12 or 15 that came to call me names.
How often is that like, how often, so it's like almost like a 2-part question, Nick. Like, how often do you take some of this shit home with you? Like, when you have like contentious, issues? Yeah. Every time. And then how does it ever follow you? Are you ever like in a fucking grocery store, like checking out like a grapefruit? And they're like, "You dumb bastard." Like, anyone ever call you out like on the street or something?
You know what I'll go back to the first part in a second, but the weirdest one ever was we were trick or treating on my street, and my kids, now are 10 and 5. And I think at the time this was probably 3 years ago. So 7 and 3, something like that, 7 and 2. And they're walking around, man. And this woman, she comes to the door, she puts candy in their bag, and she looks at me and she goes, "And you better vote no on that damn fire fee." I was like, "Happy Halloween, ma'am." But dude, Kevin, it is every meeting. We had a meeting, today's Thursday, so we had a meeting Tuesday, the 16th, and it was brutal, dude. There were it went till 10 o'clock at night. I hadn't eaten dinner. I'm a fat man. I want to eat my dinner. I'm hungry. I'm starting to get hangry in here. And I want to go home and be with my family at the end of the day. I don't want to sit here for all this time, but at the same time, that's the job I signed up for to do. And it stays with you, man. You think about it. There'll be nights where I just can't go to sleep. Like, it's just constantly running through my brain, just like anybody else. But with those things, it's just like an extra thing.
So now I got another one, man, because it's something like everywhere you go, every community you go, you like always hear this term, right? It's like the old boy system. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, obviously you guys aren't like fucking, chopping it up in the back with fucking, piles of cash. But I mean, there are some communities there. Sure. That had a lot more money running through fucking Manhattan than there is Fort Walton Beach, of course.
But New Orleans. Yeah.
So what do you say? What do you say to somebody that feels like, man, like I can't, like I'm never going to get my foot in this door, get a hold on anything in the entrepreneurial community or business community because like the cards are stacked against me because, like there's literally somebody with the fucking, what I experienced, I was like, what? There's really a guy with the last name Destin here? He mad at me? where's General Walton Beach? Did I fucking set up shop next to the fort or something? What's happening here? I mean, I'm from Detroit, man. I never met Mr. Detroit. So, but I mean, I definitely felt that. I definitely felt that in a big way when I came here. I was like, oh shit, the good old boy system was at play. So like, what do you say to somebody who doesn't feel like they have a shot because of that?
Well, I mean, I honestly don't know, because I do think that does definitely exist everywhere you go, no matter what. I mean, there's always going to be people who have been there longer and know more people and all of that. But, you know, you just have to work your way in, and as you well know, get in where you fit in, man. I mean, there are times when you can make that one right contact, and that person introduces you to a whole new way of looking at things, or a whole new group of people that you now have access to. It's just as simple as always be doing everything you can to expand your business where you want it. You know, going to stuff like those chamber meetings. I mean, you're running into the same kind of crew of people, but if you don't know that crew of people, or if you don't have any of those contacts, then you're really not going to get anywhere. And at least community groups like that, whether they be the Chamber of Commerce, which I think almost every city in the country has one, those are great for those kind of things. But you're also always going to run into those people too, that hate everything, that hate change. You know, on the political side of things, we call them NIMBYs, not in my backyard, or cave people, citizens against virtually everything.
I love that one.
And then those people are just, I mean, they stifle every change. They don't want any growth. They don't want any new businesses or new developments. And that's terrible for a city. In my opinion, the worst possible thing that can happen to a city is it just stays where it's at.
Yeah, man, agreed. And I think there's also certain boxes that just you can't, like, when things open up, you can't put them back in. You know, we might, guys in our 40s here, we might, except for Greg, you know, he loves the fucking internet probably more than anybody I know. But you know,
he's good at internet.
He's the best fucking internet. I just had a guy like reach out to me. He's like, "Hey man," like he listens to the show. He's like, "What's Greg invest in?" I was like, "Dude, don't text me about that. Text him about that. I don't know, strings of letters and internet shit. Like, I don't know what he's robots. I have no idea, man. Fucking computers come into a life and attacking us."
I think he might run the entire internet. Like his place is the hub, and everything else just kind of comes out.
We call him Greg Online.
You know what's funny, Nick? You're gonna laugh, but I was talking to my business partner about creating a crypto mining facility, and he's like, "Well, where should we put it?" And I said, "Well, I know someone in Fort Walton that we can talk to."
Yeah, where are the mine shafts at, Nick?
That's the last thing that the NIMBYs need to hear is that Florida residents starting a crypto mining facility with solar panels, because really we would put like solar panels and shit because it takes a lot of energy to mine.
Greg, listen, calm down. If that came out, somebody would literally be looking for a mine shaft.
Like, I gotta go put that.
People would be like,
crypto.
I didn't even know there was coal in this town, or gold.
And next thing you know, there'd be a bunch of people at the public hearing and be like, "I didn't know there'd be mining coal in this Fort Walton Beach. Where are we going?" And then
call the EPA.
Like anybody listens to our show, like fucking. Like we were talking about, on one of the shows, I was like talking about, like, you know, the backroom massage parlors and kratom distribution and like ribbon cutting. I'm like, yeah, you know, they fucking hate us here. They like, I open up like a kratom store and they're having like a ribbon cutting for them, or I should open like a massage. Guys that listen into our show, like Nick almost said the same shit word for word at a fucking meeting. Like he went on record saying the exact same shit, man. And I was so quiet. Like I want to jump up and be like, yeah, yeah. It was like the best shit ever, man.
There are so many times that I get it up there on that dais, and all of a sudden, like I just kind of lose my, like, I need to be professional stuff. And I just start talking crazy shit, and I can always tell the other council members are like, some Rob Ford shit again.
Yeah, dude. Hey, listen, Greg's the other councilman. I know, like when we first started this show, like I could just see him like getting visibly like uncomfortable, like shifting in his seat at shit I was saying. I was like, yes, man. So from one fucking person who does not have a filter to another, man, like fucking thank you for that. Like, my God, that's what the world is fucking missing these days, man.
So just real quick, back story that was relatable to the crypto and massage parlor situation and the mining, the crypto mining. I don't know if y'all remember 2-3 years ago when medical marijuana was first legalized here in the state of Florida, that, man, you would have thought that they were opening just crack houses in Fort Walton. Like we were one of the first cities to say, actually, I think we were the first city, at least in Okaloosa County, maybe Walton as well, to say, yeah, man, that's cool. Bring it on in. Like, this is all regulated. This is a medical dispensary. This is like, there are so many more laws, rules, and regulations. We don't have to do any of that. That's already all done. So all it is to our city is another business that's doing great business, that's paying taxes, that's providing a service, etc. But man, we were getting calls and emails and people coming in just nuts, mad about that. And every single one of them said, well, then I guess we'll just shut down the liquor stores as well.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, gotta have my sailor hair.
That wrote into conclusions here. Yeah.
It's just exactly, and I mean, it all goes down the line, man. The people don't want change; they don't want to see anything different. But then once the change happens, and then it's the new reality, and all of a sudden everything's fine. It didn't turn out in the worst possible way like they thought it would.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I want to get back. I want to go to our industry, specifically a little bit, because we've got some really we got some weird shit up here, man. Like shit, like when they were trying to like craft ordinances at the county level, like the lawyer, what is it? The county attorney, city attorney, Greg, who is it? With a city attorney, county attorney, whatever they done at the county attorney. Well, yeah, okay, county attorney. They couldn't like find. They were like just like searching like all of Florida, trying to find ordinances, like the most prohibitive ordinances that they could. Mm-hmm. So, obviously we've talked on the show a lot about, I hate to use the word like organizing, because that like makes me think of like fucking like union workers and shit. Like, but I mean, it did create, and we did organize and it did create like start the conversation, but, where do you, obviously, we returned to every single corner we possibly could, like trying to find like anybody in the political climate that's like even remotely like would hear us out, because to me this is just it's the most bizarre shit in the world. Like I've never felt like guilty about like renting boats and jet skis and fun things for children to do. It's the most bizarre shit to me ever. Like fuck jet skis. What? Who fucking hates jet skis, you fucking soulless weirdo? That's every American's fucking dream is owning a jet ski, you idiot. Yeah, so, I mean, it's like, so, walk us through that process a little bit. Like, I mean, we didn't get like super into the weeds on like, how it was we met, but I mean, what was it? How did this work? Like, how did we even like manage to get this all together?
I'm was very distracted during your question by the American dream is to own a jet ski. And it reminded me of two things. One, Kenny Powers riding a jet ski, just the most beautiful flowing locks. And then two, back when Dane Cook was funny and he said that you've never seen anyone riding a jet ski with a frown on their face.
That's so true.
And it's just, I mean, it is wonderful. It is truly wonderful. But I think your question is just kind of like
how do you net change as an industry? Where do you stop when you feel like you have nowhere to go? How do you start to enact and change as an industry?
Yeah, I mean, you guys are doing it right, though. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there are. I'm not really well versed on like organizations locally that get together, like restaurant owners. Do they have a giant meeting and say, all right, hey, they're trying to mess with our clams and we don't like that. I don't know if they do or not, but like you guys are incredibly organized and it worked very well, at least with our city. Like, how simple was it to say, hey, here's a group of business owners that have been through all this, that know these things. We have questions about, who's doing what. Is it legal? What are the regulations that already exist from the state, from on the federal level? Are there other things? Are there other bodies that are overlooking this? And you guys had all those answers because you were organized. So I would say, like, to anybody that was trying to get something done as far as a local regulation, or like, you guys have the beautiful model for that.
Yeah. And Nick, I recall, I just messaged you. I don't know if it was through Facebook or I emailed you and said, hey, we want to talk. I didn't, dangle any carrots in front of you. I just said, I just want you to listen and tell me what you think. It was simple as that. Like, I think people feel like if they're going to approach a city council person that they have to bring something to the table or they have to know somebody to get in touch. Like, it's really in these small communities, maybe not in New York City or whatever, but in these small communities, council members and city staff, like, they're here to work for you. Like, you're a tax-paying citizen. And I think there's intimidation. It's intimidating to go to meetings. It's intimidating to be a public speaker. Even I struggle with sometimes, but I always will, like, try to, if it's a really important message I'm trying to get across, I will write it out, and I'll even time myself to make sure I respect the time limit. So
I have a couple drinks right before I get into the mic, and I'm like, all right, motherfuckers, let's go. Let me tell you how I really feel. I didn't dangle any carrots, I'll tell you what, but when Nick came to my house trick-or-treating, I dumped a whole fucking box of Snickers into that kid's bag, and I winked at him. I said, now don't share those with your dad now. Wink, wink. Don't forget to vote on the water sports shit, Nick.
But I mean, I'm just trying to say, like, it shouldn't be hard to reach your council men and women. It shouldn't be. And Nick, correct me if I'm wrong. And also with this, your city manager, your city government, I find it really strange when I don't get responses, in weeks, or my phone calls don't get returned, especially if I'm not like one of those problem citizens that basically has gotten to the point where they get muffled. But I feel like, obviously with Fort Walton Beach specifically, I get answers from every single council person, and even like from Mike Beatty, the city manager. It just seems like this is a very functional government, and this is what it should be.
It really does feel that way. And, I think that's a definite credit to the staff of the city, for sure. I mean, Beatty is an incredible city manager. We have to go to these government conferences sometimes in Orlando, and they'll say, you have to wear a little lanyard that says your city and your name on it. And people will say, oh yeah, Michael Beatty, man, that guy is great. And I mean, these are bigger cities than little old Fort Walton Beach. So having people that actually care about everything like that is a big deal. And I would say it is definitely a problem if you're not able to get some sort of response. I mean, if you're a business owner or a resident of a city or a resident of a county, and you reach out to that governing body and you don't hear anything back, that's a problem. I mean, I know there's guys that send us emails about, hey, why don't you buy our koozies to throw out in the parade? Like, I'm not going to reply to every email I ever get. But at the same time, if it's, hey, I live on such and such street and this is a problem, what can I do about that? I feel that I'm the person that's supposed to be representing that person to the city workers, to the city staff. And I am kind of the last resort, the conduit. And a lot of times, like, I don't know the answer, but I definitely know who I can talk to get the answer. And my job is supposed to be the person that will make those people listen. Like, hey, now I'm asking you. They may have been asking you before and you were ignoring them, if that's the case. But now I'm asking you, and you can't ignore me because I will go into this meeting and I will tell everyone what a shitty job you've done on this.
How do you get involved with your city government other than just going to meetings and speaking publicly, letting the leaders know about what can be improved? in the city, but how can you get involved and what's that path look like?
Sure. So, I mean, I think the first thing is, taking any kind of interest in what's going on in the newspaper in whatever city anyone's in. Generally will cover some local stuff. So, hey, whether that's online or a old school traditional newspaper, just, being knowledgeable about anything that's going on or something that's going on would be a good start. And that's usually what spurs people into saying like, hey, this is, whether they're aggrieved at something or whether they're excited about something, maybe it's a new park or a new building, a new rec center, whatever. Hey, how did this come about? So obviously you could go to council meetings. In most cities, they're also broadcast on TV or the internet. Although at the meeting this past Tuesday, my wife was watching and I said, if this was a TV show, I would turn this off. Right now, I really just want to leave. But, there are not many people that attend every city council meeting, and God bless the ones that do. I don't know that I would do that, if I weren't on the city council. But at the same time, even before then, I always kept an eye on what was going on and knew who was doing what in that regard. So I would just say online, watch the meetings, watch them on cable TV if you got that, and then read about it as much as you can if you care. And really, the only reason to get involved in things like that is if something's not right and you want to make a change, or if things are going great and you want to find out, hey, how can we get more of this? I think people always underestimate the impact of positive feedback. It's just like, hey, I rented a boat from Kevin and it was terrible. It smelled bad. There was a lot of dead fish. Yeah. There's a lot of dead fish in the boat. When I got it, it wasn't cleaned out, and I go
kratom pills everywhere.
And I go on Yelp, I go on Google, and I blast that, right? I'm so mad. You always see that. But what you don't see a lot of times are people that say like, man, the trip was perfect. It was awesome. The boat was great. Kevin and his staff were so friendly. Everything was super cool. We had a great time. Taking that time to go back and leave that 5-star review. And that's, as you guys know, a really big deal because people look at that before they choose which company they're using. So, I mean, even in local government, you can call and just to whoever answers the phone, hey, I just wanted to tell you guys, I just drove down this recently paved road and it was awesome. We've needed that for so long. Thank you guys for finally doing that.
Yeah, man. That and look, salute. Like having you on the show, this is in part, like, you know what I mean? This is our 5-star review for you guys in Fort Walton Beach, man. Like Nick, one of the thing that struck me about you was you coming out to my business and talking to me face to face. Like, you know what I mean? Like that like I didn't have to, like, we didn't meet in your office. And I mean, like I felt, with a couple of these meetings that I've had with some of the politicians in our community, I felt like I was at the fucking principal's office, right. Or I was like, like fucking hat in hand, you know what I mean? Like having a conversation with you and talking to the other members, even outside of the building at City Hall in Fort Walton Beach was like way more refreshing. Like it was like, I really felt like we were on a level playing field. I felt like I was talking to somebody who was like doing work for the community, and, like that brings me to I have a personal question for you. Do you plan on, do you want a career in politics, or are you just like, is this something you're doing because obviously you care about the city of Fort Walton Beach, but do you see a further career in politics for you, or are you just more focused on your businesses and doing shit here in the community?
I really don't know, man. There's a lot of rumors that Ted is going to run for mayor in 2 years. So if that's the case, I'm not doing that.
Right.
But, I don't know, man. I love being involved like that just because I do feel like I can have an impact. If it were something where, I was sitting up there, and that could certainly change. I still have 3 years left on this term. I mean, I really don't know. But I wouldn't mind doing at least stuff in this local community, whether that's the city or the county or the school board or whatever that is. I'd be in for that. I'd be open for that opportunity. But as I said earlier, anytime if I had to pick a side and put an R or a D next to my name, I don't know that I could do that.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's fortunately and unfortunately. You know, it's like when people are like, I mean, don't get me wrong, we're not a politics show, but I was pretty happy at the way things worked here in Florida during COVID. And so when people talk about our governor like running for president, I'm like, no, keep him here in the state in Florida. So like if I don't know, man, like one part I feel like, man, like Nic like is such a good politician because you are not full of shit, man. Like you're a pretty legit person. Like I talk to enough people on a regular fucking basis that I know somebody who's full of shit. And when we spoke, the times we did speak, man, like I was just like, man, if this guy didn't want me here or thought I was bad for the community, I really feel like you'd have told me staying in our parking lot, like right then and there. Like, listen, man, like you guys are fucking out of control. The fucking smiles and fun that you guys are providing for children, it's just too fucking goddamn much. What we need here is another Kratom shop. I really feel like fucking storage, fucking
mattress
right?
store.
Yeah. I feel like there was like honesty around you the whole way. So I'm like, man, there's no way this guy's staying in fucking politics. He's too goddamn honest, man. Like somebody's gonna hate his ass too much, man. They're gonna be like, fuck that guy. He's not, he's not in the back room chopping up all the Snickers bars he got at Kevin's house.
I want to open up a car wash storage facility duo with the Kratom shop and a dispensary all in one.
Oh, yeah. That shit would be great in Detroit. Well, me and Greg are both from Michigan, so we're both wearing the Detroit hats. I don't know. Can you even see us? Because you're all like hidden behind a shroud of secrecy.
I can see you.
Yeah, that would be that'd be a good idea. So you got the storage facility with the passive income.
Yeah. I'm going to talk to my buddy, fucking Mr. Detroit.
And the thing is, listen, the Kratom shop in the storage is perfect because those people don't have any money and they have no place to go, so they're going to use the storage facility.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally, and then car wash the jobs. I mean, right? Awesome. Yeah, they don't have to even leave there.
I feel like we've done so much of the people's work on this show today. Like, I think we take this, we play it at the next city. Like, what the fuck, man? I like the shot clock. I'm happy they have it for your guys' sake, because if they just let every crazy person go up there and talk as long as they fucking wanted to, well, goddamn, that motherfucker's intimidating, man. It's like 3 minutes. It's like counting down off the side. I'm like, no, I've got this really impassioned thing I'm trying to say, and with people behind me, they're lighting their fucking torches. You guys both were
great. You guys were honestly two of the better public speakers that we've ever had at those things. Greg was very prepared and like perfect timed, etc. And Kevin, you were just wild, man, and it was awesome.
I couldn't do it anymore, man. Like I had to like recuse myself because like it was getting to the point of like there was just too much of "Are you fucking serious?" in my voice like anymore. I just couldn't take it anymore, man. Like it was like
to say that.
Kevin,
what's that?
I almost gave you an Oscar when you got done with it.
Which yeah, man. Like I was fucking.
You bring the emotion and the drama to it. I love it.
Oh, dude, like listen, man. Like don't let the fucking hat fool you and the throat tattoos fool you. I'm fucking from like a really poverty fucking stricken part of Detroit, man. And like when my business was threatened, when I'm like constantly fucking on the ropes trying to fight for something. And fucking, they're like, yeah, everybody pounds their fucking gavel, dude. Like, like, hey, fuck you, man. You're out of business. That's cool. I didn't realize that I was on trial for my fucking life here. And I have a fucking shot clock, 3 minutes to present myself. and fucking Mr. Okaloosa County's getting ready to, Mr. Okaloosa or whatever is getting ready to fucking get up and fucking, I'm like, who is this regular ass citizen who's just so articulate and ready to think? And they're like, okay, Mr. Dustin, have a great day. No idea what I was in store for. I sat in the front row. I couldn't hear what anyone was saying. I'm just like trying to fucking back out. I'm like, I'm done. I give up. You guys got me. And they're like, and they're defecating and fucking in the water. And I'm like, none of that's ever happened. What are you guys talking about? And then some really dressed, like charismatic guy who got the last name of town gets up and fucking just like shits all over my whole business. And then the whole thing's like, yeah, I think it's pretty unanimous. Fuck Kevin O'Neill. Yeah, what do you guys think? Do you even need a shot clock? Oh, boom, get him the fuck out of here. I'm like, oh, cool. Hey, honey, put up the house for sale. We can't afford to live.
We're going back to Detroit.
We're going back to Detroit to open up a Kratom fucking storage car wash facility.
8 Mile, baby.
But yeah, I mean, it was super dramatic for me, man. Like, it was fucking frustrating as hell and scary as fuck, man. I mean, this is like my first business, man. You know what I mean? So I had no idea like what I was in. I had no idea what I was in for. So when it came from the county after they kicked me out the island, then we came back to the county and we're talking about moratoriums and shit. I'm just like, what the fuck, man? Like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, how many times do I have to come here and like deal with this shit and like fight with them? And like, dude, I hired a lobbyist and it got to be so much, man, that at the end, I just couldn't do it anymore.
I think we're the only county in the country that 2 municipalities and the county all at once kind of started going after water sports. You know, I think that's in all. I think there might have been.
I think too, there might have been some confusion about what water sports that we were talking about at first too. You know, like people might have thought like, was that like a weird
Craigslist? Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Like we do need a moratorium on that.
Yeah. Bro, why have we not been hanging out fucking forever, dude? I've been dropping that joke for fucking years, man.
Thank you. Hey, and I'm so glad that on this entire podcast I was never asked to say livery or livery because I never get it right. I never do. Yeah. When you guys were all there, I was like, yeah, I need livery businesses and shit. And everybody's like, no, stop. Well, I'm fired up. Don't correct me now. Just let me go. Hey, so are you guys? You guys aren't Michigan fans, are you? I saw you.
No, that's why I moved to Florida.
Okay,
the state's cold, terrible.
The Wolverines, I mean.
Sports.
Yeah, Wolverines. Got a Tigers.
I'm good. I'm good with Michigan. I mean, I like all Michigan teams, but I
grew up in Ohio, so I'm just.
Oh, okay. I'm not too crazy. Like I don't get the whole Ohio State Michigan thing. It doesn't really bother me much.
Yeah,
but,
like when you cross the border, you're definitely like, oh, I'm in a totally another state now. We should be enemies.
Right. We're so
Michigan,
different.
Ohio. It's like
we're so different.
What's the crippling depression? Remember the Cleveland PSA? Have you ever seen that?
Oh yeah, man.
And they're like, crippling depression's our main export. Like, man, fucking same. No, I don't do sports. I don't do sports. I only do water sports. All of the kinds.
All of them.
Yeah, Jesus.
Check my ad out on Craigslist.
All right. God. Well, on that note, hey, Nic, we really appreciate you coming on the show and just sharing your knowledge with us and your story. We really appreciate what you do for the community here. And if anyone would like to reach out to you, ask a question, how can they contact you?
281-330-8004. No, that's not really mine. That's Mike.
I was like, holy shit!
No, man. I mean, you can email me, whatever. I don't know. I have too many email addresses, but how about just nicalgretto@gmail.com?
Okay. Yeah.
There you go. You were on that one, huh? Like you have Gmail first release, that first date. You're out there. Gmail. Boom. Got to get it.
Got that Gmail?
Yeah, man. Yeah, and thanks again, man. Thank you for coming on the show. Man, thanks for coming out to my business. Thank you for coming out to fucking bat for all of us. And man, we really appreciate everything you've done for us. And we're gonna continue to try and do everything the right way as best as humanly possible and fucking make you proud, Papa Nic.
Hey, next time you guys need a guest and you don't have anybody, I'd love to do it again. It was a lot of fun.
Awesome.
Oh man, it was a blast. You did awesome, man. Thanks again, Nic.
All right,
Thanks,
Nic.
guys.